I think it's fair to say that it had to be me doing this review for Coma 2. The first game was my first ever review for SwitchWatch 2.5 years ago, or whatever, before I'd even joined up as a proper member. Juan and James reached out to me for help during a busy time, and I obliged, and they probably regretted it when I gave the game a 5.5, even though it looked pretty awesome. Nevertheless, I thought it had great potential, and so, to come full circle, a slightly fatter Jordan with less hair and parenting-induced baggy eyes, it's time to take a look at the sequel, The Coma 2. The story has many similarities with the original, still set in the Seoul High School of the first, this time starring Mina, who was prominent in the first game. This time, the lore delves much deeper as Mina quickly falls into the titular coma and tries to escape while uncovering the supernatural mystery behind it and avoid the deadly vicious sisters that stalk her every movement. The story starts off a little slow for the first half hour or so, but once Mina is in the coma and bumping into other characters and locations, it starts to become much more entertaining. I didn't like how the game over-explained everything, but, overall, it was a decent time for a story. In terms of gameplay, well, this is where the original game fell so hard for me. It had so much promise and was very, very nearly there, but fell harshly in my opinion due to issues that I could not get over. Does Coma 2 address those issues? Well, let's just start with the core gameplay for those not familiar. It's very similar to the first as you explore, in a 2D perspective, the high school and other locations. You are being stalked by a murderous and worryingly sexy fiend. Let's face it, there are worse hands to be eviscerated at. Anyways, as a survival horror game, you're incredibly vulnerable, with hiding being the key component to survival. As you explore the locations, you'll be dipping in and out of rooms that line corridors, with a few infrequent nasties that will try to nab you. Whether it's a writhing monster on the ground, dangling claws from above ready to swipe, or poisonous blobs ready to explode when nearby, you'll have to keep on your toes. It's always best to turn your light on, which not only helps you see hazards more clearly, but allows you to pick up items from the floor. Be warned, however, as it can also draw attention to you, especially from the persistent vicious sisters who are far more aggressive than anything else out there. Fast and deadly, when you bump into them, you'll definitely need to make an escape. They will kill you in one unless you have some pepper spray on hand, which will give you a brief moment to find your hideout before she starts chasing you again. If you don't have any pepper spray, you're dead. It's back to your last save. There are various hiding places like lockers, cubicles, and under desks that, they provide different levels of cover. After jumping into one of these, you can keep your breath held by doing a quick time event. If you fail, you'll be spotted. While most hate quick time events, I really appreciated their addition to this game, and it adds an interesting layer to what was slightly mundane in the previous game. They're not difficult, but they do keep you on your toes. So, I had two massive issues with the first game. It was a while ago, but I remember not being able to shake them, and they brought down my enjoyment irreparably. Firstly was the delayed controls. It seemed like every time I needed to do a quick action, whether it be a dodge roll to escape an attack or open a door to run away, the controls would fail me, either delayed or unregistered. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it ruined it for me. Secondly was the stalker herself. After an hour, she became so predictable and frequent, which turned her into an inconvenience rather than anything scary. The game lost its mojo when you could almost see the programming behind her. Here, I felt it was more subtle, more mysterious. It is a lot better in the Coma 2, but the fact that it's still happening for half a dozen hours still makes it difficult not for it to wear thin by the end. But anyways, have these issues been fixed for me? Yes, they bloody have. The dodge, which is actually more like a duck, is instantaneous and reliable. It has the added bonus of looking a bit naff, so it gives you a false sense of vulnerability, like you're never sure if you'll be able to get away from the enemy swipes, even though it's guaranteed as long as you don't truly mess up. The game is not perfect though. For example, there are just too many items and not enough inventory slots. It often makes searching for the loot completely pointless. The abundance of health pickups, money, and lack of enemies make it an easy game for the most part. Other small things like action buttons having pressure sensitive commands, i.e. you hold the button down long enough for it to register. That is fine and I get why, but the fact that some of them are and some of them aren't made it annoying, as I would always default to just tapping the button rather than holding it. They should have all been pressure sensitive or not. I know these are nitpicks, but I know the developers of these games listen very closely to feedback in order to improve, as I've already said with the previous game, so I'm hoping they can take this on board too. Progression in the game is quite predictable, sadly. It's just go here, pick up this key, go there. It doesn't help that it's all spelled out to you very clearly and pinpointed on your map for the most part. Some of the puzzle elements are spelled out less so, which I appreciated, but it is slightly less immersive as a game as a result compared to the previous one. Instead of slowly creeping through a dark school hoping to stumble upon a clue, you just head where you need to go. Although the numerous environments really help alleviate that problem. I enjoyed going to the hospital, delving into the subway, into the market. It really livened the game up. And despite my issues, I think horror game fans are going to enjoy this one. It is accessible, not overly difficult, and I never felt truly frustrated or bored like I was with the original gameplay, despite this being quite similar in concept. Go here, take this, go there, go to this person, rinse and repeat. The new environments, the variety of rooms and visuals kept me happy enough throughout without ever blowing me away in its game design. It is an easy enough game, but I like the fact that your character gets less health the further you progress. It's a nice way to ramp up the difficulty without overloading you with hazards. Alright, visually the game retains the same great art style of the first, which naturally contradicts many of the horror elements. They've made the cartoony nature of it still work well with the horror though, perhaps better than the original, although my memory is slightly hazy on that element. It feels like there's less gore this time around, but for me it adds more supernatural elements than the outright horror. The character designs are great and the comic style cutscenes are fantastic. However, the highly compressed intro video is a bit of a head scratcher. It looks so poor compared to the rest of the game's visuals. Now, audio is a massive part of any horror experience and can often go hand in hand with the gameplay. Like many horrors, listening out for your stalker is an important part. Hearing the footsteps of the deadly damsels will alert you to their presence, giving you time for an escape. Although it isn't guaranteed, at least from a few instances where they appeared out of nowhere. Whether that's intentional or not, I think it added to the tension of never truly knowing when she'd pop out. The music is excellently done too. As with most horror games, it's often difficult to discern between different musical tracks, but what's here adds a lot to the atmosphere and the experience. It is very eerie, very well done, and I enjoyed listening to it. Voice acting is minimal, limited to the occasional cutscene, and it's a shame because I think being fully voice acted would have been nice, but it's an indie studio, so I can understand why it wasn't. In terms of value, Coma 2 Vicious Sisters is priced at $14.99 in the US and Europe and £11.99 in the UK. I've got to be honest, that price shocked me. With the ever-creeping prices for indie games, that is a very reasonable price. Before I'd even looked the price up for the review, I was expecting like £17, $20, so it's a very pleasant surprise for sure. Even better is the 10% discount for the first week. You're looking at half a dozen hours or so to get through the game, but I think there's extra room for more time to spend with the game if you enjoy it. There are notes to collect to give you some flavor to the world and artwork to unlock via achievement-like rewards. But there is also DLC, which is odd. It's not major, but you can purchase other characters or costumes to play as if you so choose. Perhaps if you thought the game was too cheap and want to support it more, who knows. Now, the first game did get a physical release in the West, but it looks like this sequel is missing out. The publisher I talked to indicated there are no plans to release physically in the West at the moment. But importers rejoiced because Japan is getting a sweet double pack of the Coma 1 and 2 in English if you want to own them physically, which for me is always the preferred way to own my games. This release is called The Double Cut, which is planned for an early August release. There are links below in the pinned comment and the description as to where you can find it for yourself if you want to import it and add a nice horror double pack to your collection. It is an affiliate link, so any purchase that you make can help the SwitchWatch team out massively, and you can also get a nice 5% off your order when you're checking out if you use the coupon code SwitchWatchTV. That's all one word, SwitchWatchTV, for 5% off your order. If you don't want to import, then you'll be looking at a download file size of just under 800 megabytes, which is very reasonable. Alright, before we get into my final verdict, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We've got lots of great content for you guys, including 3 weekly series without fail. We talk about all the best bargains, all the latest digital releases, and my very own series, a nice community look at all the physical releases on the Switch for you Switch collectors out there. It's well worth subscribing and clicking that bell notification. Overall, Coma 2 Vicious Sisters is a much needed step up for this potential series by Dev Espresso. They obviously took a lot of pointers from the first game's criticisms and basically built the same game but better. If you, like me, were desperate to love Coma 1 but just couldn't due to its issues, then this is almost a solution. It's not perfect, it still has its quirks and there is room for even more improvement and evolution. It's not top tier by any means, as I feel it still has the potential to be even better, but for the price, you're getting a very nice, enjoyable time. A side-scrolling survival horror that gets the job done without ever being truly great. A solid 7 out of 10. Alright, thanks for watching this review, my lovely people. If you do fancy importing this physically, don't forget to use the links below and try the coupon code. Thank you ever so much for watching, and special thanks to our executive producers, Jonathan Rumo, Gannicus, God of Resin, and Dane Wilkinson. We very much appreciate you, along with all the people who watch and our other YouTube members. Be sure to check out some of our other videos that we've put out this week. We've got a lot for you guys, and we don't want you to miss it. We'll see you over there. Take care.